Hello students, welcome to this session on research design. Research design is the arrangement of conditions for collection and analysis of data. In fact, it is the conceptual structure with which the research is conducted. So it is a framework for planning, implementation and analysis of the research study. It is a blueprint, master plan or a map of the house specifying methods and the procedures for conducting a research study. And this involves the description of research setting, sampling technique, sample size, tools, and methods of data collection, analysis to answer the research questions and also to test research hypothesis. Research design is the scheme of work to be done during the various stages of a research project, and it is the heart of planning. It is a blueprint for conducting the study that maximizes control over factors. So it will talk about what is the study about, where will the study be carried out, what type of data will be required, and where can the required data be found, what periods of time will the study include, and what techniques of the data collection will be used, and how will the data be analyzed. So it is a planned process of making all these decisions and also series of guidelines to carry out the research study. Now coming to the functions. What are the functions of research design? Why do we need a research design, or why is it important to have a research design? A research design allows smooth implementation of the research process. It helps to arrange the ideas in a systematic way. It finds the answers to the research questions objectively and also validly. It guides the researcher in planning the steps of the research process and then implementation of the research process. It provides a set of instructions regarding sample, variables, tools, methods of data collection, and also analysis. And it makes the research efficient. It acts as a minimum control mechanisms. It's a firm foundation for the entire structure, and it should be done with great care. So these are the functions of the research design. Coming to the elements. So what are the elements of research design? To start with, it involves the description of the research approach. So what is the approach being used, whether it is quantitative, qualitative, or a combination of both the methods, and which will depend on the problem statement, and also variables to be tested, the research approach. Coming to the population, sample, sampling technique. So it provides direction about the population, sampling technique which will be used for the study, and also variables to be selected. Another important aspect which is essential to the effective planning is time. So what is the time duration? What are the number of years, months and days, especially if it is a funded project? Place and of data collection. So where will the data be collected? What will be the study setting, the physical location, and where will the research be carried out? Tools and methods of data collection. So it involves describing the different tools which will be used for data collection, questionnaires, interview method, and observation. Also, where will the data be collected? Methods of data analysis. So it should include a plan for data analysis, descriptive and inferential statistics to be used for quantitative data, content analysis to be used for qualitative data. So these were the elements of the research design: approach, population sampling, time and place of data collection, tools and methods of data collection, and methods of data analysis. Now, what are the characteristics of a research design? It should be flexible. The research design should be flexible, must be appropriate to the research problem, to the objectives, should be an efficient one. It should be tending to the holistic. For example, minimize the bias and maximize the reliability, The researcher to become intensively involved in the project. A good design should minimize the bias and maximize the reliability of the data to be collected. The best design should minimize the measurement errors, and it should maximal the information opportunity. It should give an opportunity to consider different aspects of a problem. It should be most appropriate related to the objectives and also related to the problem factors. For example, objectives of the research, aims of the research, nature of the research problem, what is the title, what are the purposes of this study, whether it is descriptive in nature or exploratory, or it is testing some hypothesis. So accordingly, the design will be either descriptive, or it will be experimental, or it will be an exploratory design. Researchers' knowledge also to be kept in mind. Now, how do you select a research design? What research design will be appropriate for your particular problem should be decided in advance. It should be capable to answer the research questions. The research design selected should be capable to answer the research questions. It should be most suitable to meet the aims, objectives, and hypotheses of the study. Now, factors to be considered for selecting appropriate design. It should take care of the purposes of the design, the researcher's knowledge, training, experience also to be kept in mind. Also, the researcher's interest. He should be passionate about that particular problem selected and motivated. All these things will help in deciding the research design. It is largely influenced by the researcher's knowledge, experience, and also interest. Now, coming down to the availability of resources, time, and also subjects. So, the resources could be funds, time, manpower, and also materials. Availability of subjects, whether the number of participants are they available, and if it is a funded project, they are most of the times they are time bound. So availability of subjects, time, funds, manpower, and also the materials. Ethical considerations. A good research design should take care of the ethical issues, respecting the participants, using informed consent, protecting from the harm, and also controlling extraneous variables. An efficient design should maximize the results and decrease the errors. So these were the criteria of a selection research design. Now, coming to the various types of quantitative research designs. Quantitative research designs, they are a type of empirical investigation, which means the researcher focuses on verifiable observation. They collect numerical data, numbers, and they are put into categories, and then they are transformed into statistics. So it is a structured method to collect the data, analyze the data, which focuses on verifiable observation. They use objective measurements and mathematical analysis of the data, which is collected through questionnaires, through surveys, through polls, or it is collected by manipulating the pre-existing statistical data. So they are either descriptive or they are experimental, and they are associated with large-scale studies. And they most of the times focus on proof rather than the discovery. So this is quantitative research designs. There are three primary types of quantitative research designs. One, non-experimental designs, experimental designs, and quasi-experimental designs. To start with, non-experimental designs. Non-experimental design, they are one of the broad categories of designs. They describe, differentiate, and examine associations among the variables. And they focus on examining the variables as they naturally occur in the environment. Non-experimental designs do not use control groups, do not use manipulation of the independent variables, and neither there is random assignment, because all these three features are of the experimental designs. So non-experimental designs, they provide a very rich source of data which can be used later in the experimental designs. So why do we undertake non-experimental designs? So what are the reasons for undertaking non-experimental designs? Some variables are not amenable to experimental manipulation or randomization because we cannot manipulate some of the variables like height or gender. In some of the conditions, we cannot exercise the control. It is not possible to control some independent variables because they have already occurred. There are some practical constraints or some ethical issues because sometimes it is unethical to manipulate the independent variables because they may cause either physical harm to the subjects or participants, or they may cause some psychological harm to the participants. So it is unethical to conduct experimental studies. To get a realistic understanding in the natural setting, deliberately the researcher will choose not to manipulate the variables. So the descriptive type of studies, they do not require experimental approaches. So in these, independent variables cannot be manipulated. That is the reason we take non-experimental designs. Types, there are various types of non-experimental designs. Number one, they are based, the three broad categories. One, they are based on the type of purpose of study. What is the purpose of the study, whether it is descriptive or it is correlational? One. Two, based on the time of data collection, that when is the data collected, cross-sectional or it is a longitudinal. Three, based on the timings or the event being studied. They can be either retrospective or they can be prospective in nature. So to start with one by one, descriptive designs based on the purpose of the study. Non-experimental designs can either be descriptive or they can be correlational. So descriptive designs will only describe individual characteristics, events, or groups in real life situations. They only observe, they describe, and document the aspects of a situation as they naturally occur, and they serve for hypothesis generation or a theory development. So descriptive designs, they are more flexible, they are broad in scope, and they help in developing nursing interventions. They do not involve manipulation of variables. There are three types, can be classified into one, typically descriptive, exploratory, and comparative. So the number one is typically descriptive. As the name suggests, they are used to examine variables in a single sample. They provide valuable evidence regarding disease prevention, one, nature of the disease, and intensity of the disease. So they'll only describe these, where is the disease present and how can they prevent it. And this includes identifying the variables, measuring the variables, then describing the variables, and then interpreting the meaning of the findings. So this is typically descriptive design. For example, a study to assess the pain experiences among patients with rheumatoid arthritis. So the researcher describes the intensity of pain among the patients with rheumatoid arthritis and frequency of pain among the patients with rheumatoid arthritis. So this is only describing the pain and then the intensity among the patients. So typical descriptive design. Number two, exploratory design. So this designs are used to, as the name suggests, they explore, they go into a depth, they explore the related factors of the existing phenomena in order to enhance the in-depth understanding. So these includes identifying the variables and also the related factors, then measuring the frequency of occurrence, describing all those with an in-depth explanation, and then interpreting the meaning. So this is beyond the descriptive. They will also identify the related factors and also describe them with in-depth explanation and also frequency of occurrence. For example, if you take up the same example and explore, just add the word exploratory, an exploratory study to assess various factors associated with pain and coping measures among the patients with rheumatoid arthritis. If you take the previous example, The factors associated with pain and related coping mechanisms, they are described, they are measured, and then they are explained. So this becomes an exploratory design because they're taking care of the associated factors and also the coping mechanisms among the patients with rheumatoid arthritis. Number three, comparative design. So this design is used to compare, as the name suggests, comparative comparison between two or more groups on the basis of selected variables. So measuring the differences in variables occurring naturally between two or more groups and then comparing them on selected variables. So it will take care of in depth the measuring the differences. For example, if you take the same example, comparative study on pain symptoms among male and female patients suffering with rheumatoid arthritis. That can also be done among rural and urban areas. So comparative design. For example, group 1, group 2, measuring the variables in both the groups, describing the variables, and then comparing groups on selected variables, and finally interpreting the meanings. So comparative descriptive design will compare both the groups on the selected variables. Now category number 2, that was all descriptive designs. Descriptive, three types: typically descriptive 1, exploratory designs 2, and 3, comparative designs. Now coming to type 2, that is correlational designs. Correlational designs, they answer the questions about the relationships or associations. Involves analysis of two variables to describe the strength of the relationship and also the direction of the relationship. They assess interrelationships among the study variables without any active intervention by the researcher. They study whether the changes in one or more variables are related to the changes in another variables. They all take place in natural settings and they are better suited to solve the day-to-day problems or practical problems in everyday life. They're very easy to plan and also to implement, and they are efficient in generating hypotheses from the results. So they are suited to solve the practical problems in everyday life. Correlational designs. Types of correlational designs. Number one, descriptive correlation. So they describe the variables and also examine the relationships among themselves. There is no control, there is no manipulation, and the variables need to be clearly identified and they should be operationally defined. What do you mean by those variables in this particular study? So they need to be operationally defined. For example, a correlational analysis of physical, mental, social, emotional, spiritual, and self consciousness among the students who are pursuing the teacher training program. So, this study will looks at the relationships among different dimensions of the consciousness. All these dimensions: physical dimension, mental, social, emotional, and spiritual dimension with the self. So it identifies many interrelationships in a particular situation. So this is descriptive correlational design. Number two, predictive. So it will be predicting the relationship in a particular research. These designs will explore what factors may influence an outcome. The variable to be predicted is dependent variable, and the other variable is independent variable, or also known as predictor variable. And these are called regression studies because based on the statistical tests which is used for the analysis. Regression studies, for example, agitation, loss of energy will lead to the self-care behavior. So they are reciprocal arrows. For example, in this study, self-care behavior, which is the dependent variable, it could be predicted by depressive symptoms of agitation and also loss of energy, which is the independent variable or the predictors. A predictive correlational study was conducted to determine, to find out whether these depressive symptoms were predictive of self-care behavior in adults who had suffered a myocardial infarction. So the patients who had myocardial infarction, if they displayed or exhibited these symptoms of depression, like if they're agitated and they do not have energy, loss of energy, so that was significantly predictive of self-care performance, that they will not be able to take care of themselves in myocardial infarction patients. So they are predictive correlational designs. Like you can also do the students who get good marks in class 12 will also get good marks in the subsequent professions or the programs they join. So predictive, depending on the, or maybe the marks they get in the entrance exams, they also will get good marks in the when anywhere program they join. Predictive studies. So these studies are actually very useful in nursing, as the results can be used to identify the indicators or the early indicators in patients, complications of a particular disease, so that preventive actions could be taken. If you find out the patients who have these symptoms, so they can be taken care of in the beginning and this could be prevented. Model testing correlation design. These studies examine the proposed relationships for a particular model which is formed or a theory. And these designs hypothesize how various elements in the patient care environment interact with each other and how can these variables be measured. What are the direct effect or the indirect effect of variables on the outcomes. So the large heterogeneous sample is needed to measure all the variables relevant to the model. For example, the physical environment in a hospital from the patient point of view, what is the temperature of the patient's room, the noise and the light, or maybe the psychological environment. So all these things can be tested. So model testing, correlational design. So what is the effect of physical environment and psychological environment can be tested based on the time of data collection. So the cross-sectional design, that is data is collected only at one point of time, cross-sectional design. So these studies involve observing a single phenomena across multiple populations at a single point of time without any follow-up studies for determining the relationship between the variables. So the study environment is not manipulated, so it is an observational design. Information is recorded about the subjects. So appropriate for describing the status of a particular disease in a population and also the relationships among the risk factors and conditions at one point of time. So this is cross-sectional design of the based on the point of time of data collection. For example, a study to assess the cholesterol level among daily walkers and non-daily walkers. So both the subjects, whether they are daily walkers or non-daily walkers, the cholesterol level is checked, assessed among the two age groups and also genders at one point of time. The study compared the cholesterol levels of daily and non-daily walkers among the two age groups, that is over 40 years of age and above 40 years, both in males and females at a given point of time. The educational level, so it is under 40 years and above 40 years. The educational level between both the groups was compared, the income, the dietary pattern among both the groups, and also in relation to the walking, and then the cholesterol level was being compared. But it do not reveal the cause and effect relationship. That's the only drawback, cannot be established. Longitudinal designs or data collected at multiple time points. The numerous observations of the same subjects. So same subjects are followed up for years together. And they are recorded over a period of time. Sometimes these studies can take for many, and they last for many years. And they are also known as repeated measures because repeated measurements have to be taken, also known as cohort studies, and they are more focused on non-clinical population, especially if you think of the NCDs, non-communicable diseases, and also used for follow-up studies of a clinical population. So the nature of study and the available resources will decide the number of data collection points and also the time intervals of collecting the data. So these are the two important points. And what is the type of study and what are the resources available and how many times will the data be collected, what will be the points, and also the time interval, every 6 months or every 1 year. When changes in phenomena are very rapid, so frequent data collection points will be taken up and also with short intervals may be needed. So it may last for many years, these longitudinal studies when the data is collected at multiple time points. For example, a study to assess the effect of daily walking on cholesterol level among men and women, 40-year-old daily walkers and non-daily walkers. And the study assessed the initial cholesterol level and it followed up for 20 years. That means when they started the study, when they were 40-year-old, and the study continued up to the age of 60 years. And cholesterol level was assessed, for example, every year to find out the effect of daily walking on the cholesterol level. So it takes years to complete these studies. Another example, a longitudinal study to assess the cognitive development among Down syndrome infants. So infants who were born with Down syndrome, they were assessed for cognitive development and later followed up for 18 years. So when the infant was born, they were assessed at that time and then they were followed every 6 months or every 1 year for their growth and development for 18 years and also for cognitive development to assess the subsequent changes in the cognitive development. So it takes years to complete these studies, 20 years, 18 years. The only drawback or the only limitation with these studies is that the attrition rate may be high, the subjects may drop out, and also it turns out to be more expensive as compared to the resources in point types. So there are three types of longitudinal studies: trend studies, panel studies, and then follow-up studies. Trend studies, you to find out the trend, that what is the latest trend related to this phenomena. Different samples are selected at repeated intervals from the same population and then they are studied over time with respect to the phenomena. The patterns and rate of changes over time are studied and then you can predict the future developments. For example, the students and to analyze the number of students who are entering the nursing programs, and then you can forecast the future supplies of the nurses in a particular state or in a particular region or in a particular country. So this is the trend study, just to find out how many students are taking up nursing programs. Number two, the panel studies. Panel, the same sample supplies the data, like you have students on a panel or some mm, candidates on a panel. The same sample will supply the data at various time points. The same sample is studied over time. For example, a panel designed with a time interval of 3 years was used. Sample consisted of nurses with different functions. That means they were working in different areas of the hospital, working in different wards. Same nurses were assessed for stress at different intervals. Say, for example, every 6 months when the posting was being changed from the wards to the high dependency units or ICUs, working conditions may be different areas, medical, surgical, pediatric, community, OBG. So all these things, working conditions were compared with the stress levels. So these are the panel studies when the same subjects are followed up at various time points. Follow-up studies. Number three, follow-up, as the name suggests, that means these are the follow-up studies which are undertaken to find out the subsequent development of the individuals. Either they have a specific problem or a disease, or they have received a special intervention related to some disease. For example, a study to assess longitudinal spiritual coping with trauma in people with HIV. This 10-year study examined how people with HIV use spirituality to cope up with the life's trauma on top of the HIV related stress. So these were the follow-up studies which are done on a particular type of patients for 10 years related to how they were able to cope up with the trauma of HIV. Now, the last category, based on the timings of the event being studied, there are two types, retrospective and prospective designs. Retrospective, the study has been conducted subsequent, that means later, to the dependent variable being affected by the independent variable. They are also known as ex post facto, that is, after the fact, the researcher attempts to link the present events with the past events, and the data is collected on an outcome occurring in the present and then linking it retrospectively to the previous circumstances. These are cross-sectional designs, data about both the present outcomes and the past events and occurrences. They are collected at a single point. So these are retrospective studies or ex post facto studies. The study, these studies proceeds backwards actually. So these studies proceeds backwards from the effect to the cause. For example, a retrospective correlational study was conducted among alcoholic liver cirrhosis patients to find out their alcohol consumption pattern. So the dependent variable cirrhosis of liver had already occurred. The researcher collects the alcohol consumption pattern and then links it to the present diagnosis. It is less time consuming, inexpensive, and easy to conduct. But only drawback is the cause and effect relationship cannot be established. Prospective designs. Prospective, in these designs, the presumed cause or the alcohol consumption is identified, and then presumed effects or the cirrhosis of liver are observed. So data is collected about the events as they occur moving forward in time. Intervention studies, they are all prospective in nature. Data is collected initially about the independent variable, and then subsequently the effect on the outcome is measured, that is the occurrence of the dependent variable. So these studies are kind of similar to the longitudinal studies. So this was prospective designs. For example, to test the hypothesis, the incidence of smoking is related to lung cancer. So the researcher, to begin with subjects who have been smoking and also with the ones who have not been smoking, the smokers and non-smokers, they are subsequently followed up for the occurrence of the lung cancer. The only limitation with these designs is that they are more time consuming and they're also expensive because the subjects may drop out due to the long follow-up period. Now coming to the another category, that is experimental research designs. Till now we have seen non-experimental research designs. Experimentation is the most scientific research method. It is observation under controlled conditions. Experiment. So experimental research deals with the investigation of the effect of independent variable on the dependent variable. The independent variable is manipulated through treatment or intervention, and then the effect of these interventions or treatment or independent variable is observed on the dependent variable. The design is more powerful for testing the hypothesis of the causal relationship among the variables or the cause and effect relationship among the variables. So experimental research designs. Now let's see the elements. So what are the elements of experimental research design? It has three main features: randomization, manipulation, and control, and also precisely defined independent variables. Independent variables need to be precisely defined. It should have a clearly defined sampling criteria. It should have a comparison group to find out experimental group and the control group, controlled environment for conducting the study, carefully measured dependent variables, the effect to be measured carefully, The experimental designs can be classified into true experimental designs and quasi-experimental designs. So coming to the true experimental designs. So experimental research designs deal with the effect of the independent variable on the dependent variable. This dependent variable, this design is very powerful for testing the hypothesis of the causal relationship among the variables. There are 6 types of true experimental research designs. 1. Post-test only control group design. 2. Post-test control group design. Solomon four-group design. Crossover design. Factorial design. And randomized block design. Now let's see one by one. To start with, so a few words about true experimental research designs. They have the 3 main essential features. 1, manipulation or the treatment or the intervention, which is symbolized as X. Observations or the measurements of the dependent variable, O. Randomization, R, which means random assignment of the subjects to the groups, whether it is control group or the experimental group. So these are the main essential features of a experimental design. So the researchers have control over the extraneous variables, and they can predict that the observed effect on the dependent variable is only due to the manipulation of the independent variable. So true experimental research design, the main features: randomization 1, manipulation 2, and then the control. Coming to the manipulation. So manipulation is the process of manipulating the independent variable so that the effect on the dependent variable can be measured or observed. Randomization, participants being assigned to either experimental group or to the control group, the treatment or the intervention. And there can be many methods of randomization. Lottery method can be used, tossing a coin, random number tables, computer generated numbers. So randomization occurs at 2 levels: random selection and random assignment. So it is the placing the study subjects on a random basis. It is the process of drawing the sample from a population by way of a choice. So random assignment of the subjects or the participants to different groups or different types of treatment. Control. So control is another important feature which is used for the subjects and also for the conditions. It is for elimination for the bias. Control group refers to a group of subjects or conditions whose performance is used to evaluate the performance of the experimental group on same dependent variable. Effects of the extraneous variables. So effects of extraneous variables can also be controlled by manipulation. 1, randomization, use of strict protocols in experimental studies, blinding, and then matching. So what are the strict protocols? That means they refer to the identical management of the treatment group subjects with respect to the administration of the intervention. That means the intervention given in experimental groups, it should be similar. Blinding. So what is blinding? It is concealment of group allocation from the participants, being unaware of the group, whether they belong to the control group or they belong to the experimental group. Now there are single blind or double blind experiments. Single blind, only the study participants are kept unaware of their status. They do not know which group they belong to, whether control group or experimental group. The double blind experiments, both the investigator who is conducting the research and also the participants, they are not aware of the experimental groups. So this was about the extraneous variables, effects of the extraneous variables. Matching. Matching is a conscious matching of the subject characteristics in both the groups, the control group and the experimental group. So the subject's characteristics are matched based on a particular variable and then they are put into groups. So equivalent groups are created for the study. For example, a study to evaluate the effectiveness of daily exercise on reducing cardiovascular disorders. The researcher matches the subjects based on their age, gender, and smoking habits. So this was about the matching. So matching, blinding, using strict protocols, randomization, and manipulation. So that is how the effects of extraneous variables can be controlled. Now coming to the designs. This design number one, post-test only control group design, also known as after only design. In this particular design, subjects are randomly assigned to either of the control group or experimental groups, as you can see in this. So this is a random assignment for the experimental group and the control group. The subjects are not pre-tested before the treatment. So there is no pre-test given to either of the groups before the treatment. Experimental group subjects receive treatment or intervention. So the experimental group will receive experimental treatment, but the control group receives routine treatment or no treatment. So there is no experimental treatment given to the control group. Both the groups are given post-tests, experimental group and the control group post-test. So it is a post-test only control group design or after only design. The post-test observations are carried out on both the groups to assess what was the effect of the manipulation, what was the effect of the intervention or the treatment. Post-test only control group design. For example, a study to evaluate the effectiveness of antenatal exercises on labor outcome among antenatal mothers. So antenatal mothers, they are assigned to experimental and control groups randomly. And the experimental group, antenatal mothers, they are given exercise program and the labor outcome is compared between the two groups. So antenatal mothers are randomly assigned to either of the groups and one of the groups selected for the experimental is given your antenatal exercise. And then the labor outcome is compared between both the groups, control group and the exercise groups. And labor outcome is the dependent variable which cannot be assessed at the antenatal period. Coming to number two, design number two, pre-test, post-test control group design. As the name suggests, pre-test, post-test control group design. Subjects are randomly assigned to either a control group or an experimental group. So random assignment for experimental group and the control group. One, subjects in both the groups are given pre-test. So experimental group and control group both will get a pre-test. Experimental group subjects receive treatment or intervention. So experimental treatment or intervention is given to experimental groups and not to the control group. Control group receives routine treatment or no treatment. Both the groups are given post-test. Post-test. So that post-test will be observation 2, pre-test will be observation 1. Used to assess the changes from pre-test to post-test and as a result of the treatment or the intervention. So this was about pre-test, post-test control group design, where pre-test is given to both the groups, post-test also to both the groups, and experimental treatment only to the experimental group and not to the control group. For example, effectiveness of counseling therapy on depression among cancer patients. The researcher assesses the effectiveness of counseling therapy, how effective the counseling is, by conducting pre-test in both the groups and then followed by counseling therapy only for the experimental group and no therapy for the control group. And randomization ensures that both the groups are equal in all the characteristics. Any changes in the post-test could be the result of the treatment or the intervention. So this design has 4 groups, 2 experimental groups, and coming to the Solomon 4 group design. So this design has 4 groups, 2 experimental and then the 2 control groups. 1 experimental and 1 control group are administered pre-test. Get the diagram first. So this Solomon 4 group design has 4 groups, 2 experimental groups and 2 control groups. One experimental group and 1 control group, they are given pre-test. As you can see, the first experimental group and the control group, both of them are given pre-test, and the other 2 are not given pre-test. The other experimental group 2 and control group 2, there is no pre-test being given. And all the 4 groups, both the experimental and both the control groups, are being randomly assigned. 2 experimental group subjects receive treatment or intervention. So 2 of the experimental groups will receive experimental treatment. First and the third experimental group, experimental treatment given to both the experimental groups. Control group subjects receive routine treatment or no treatment. So both the control groups receive no treatment, but post-test is conducted on all the 4 groups. Same subjects are exposed to more than one experimental treatment in a single research study. So this was about Solomon 4-group design. A questionnaire, for example, questionnaire on drug calculation was given to nursing students to measure their knowledge as a pretest. That how much do they know about this particular method of calculating the drugs. This might result in scoring better on the post-test, because if they are given pre-test, they might score better in the post-test because the questions being the same compared to the scoring without taking the pre-test. Pre-test sensitization had an influence on the post-test scores. So to avoid this sensitization, the Solomon 4-group design is being used. So any differences between the experimental group and control group post-test scores, they can be associated with the experimental treatment. So this was the Solomon 4-group design, 2 experimental groups, 2 control groups, and there are one experimental, one control group is given pre-test. Both the experimental groups are given experimental treatment. All the 4 groups are randomly assigned, and all of them are given post-test. Now, number 4, crossover design. Crossover, or also known as repeated measures design. Subjects are randomly assigned to one of the 2 groups. They are administered 2 treatments, one experimental and the other control or the reference. One group receives the experimental treatment initially and the other group receives the reference treatment first. And then the treatments are crossed over after a certain period. Subjects in both the groups are pre-tested. Observation 1. Experimental group of subjects receive first set of treatment, that is X1. The control group subject receive second set of treatment, X2. Both the groups are post-tested, that is the observation number 2. One was pre-test, O1 is pre-test, O2 is post-test. After a period of time, the treatments are swapped between both the groups. Both the groups are given post-test, that is observation number 3. So the experimental group had first set of treatment, the control group had a second set of treatment, but now they are swapped. That means experimental group will receive second set of treatment and control group will receive first set of treatment. For example, a study to compare the effectiveness of music and massage therapy on the development of premature infants. Some infants are randomly assigned to receive massage therapy first and music therapy later. Others receive music therapy first and massage later. So they are swiped. So this is a kind of a crossover design. So more than one treatment. Crossover design, for example, we have taken two groups, group 1 and group 2, and the protocols for oral care. So more than one treatment when we compare the effectiveness of both the protocols for the oral care. First group, chlorhexidine is administered to group 1, and then it is administered potassium permanganate group B, and then the group 2 will receive potassium permanganate first, and then it is swapped later for chlorhexidine. So it is an extremely powerful research design, but sometimes it may not be effective because they may be influenced by the previous experiences. So this is a crossover design when it is swapped for both the groups. First chlorhexidine and then potassium permanganate. First potassium permanganate for group 2 and then chlorhexidine. Now coming to number 5, factorial design. So factorial design, all independent variables, they are known as factors. Multiple independent variables are used in these designs. Two or more independent variables are manipulated simultaneously. An effect of each independent variable is studied on the dependent variable, and also interaction between these independent variables. And it incorporates 2 by 2 factorial design or 2 by 3 factorial design, and it can test many hypotheses in a single study. Factorial design. So subjects are randomly assigned to the 4 groups, and there are 4 groups: A, Group B, Group C, and Group D. And subjects in all the groups are given pre-test, that is observation 1. The Group A subjects, so these are the 4 groups: Group A, Group B, Group C, and Group D. So a study to evaluate the effectiveness of relaxation and distraction on reducing pain among the cancer patients. So there are 4 cells being used, group A, B, C, D, and there are equal number of subjects in each cell. So group A subjects receive intervention 1 and 2. So these are the group A subjects which receive intervention, that is distraction, and also relaxation, X1 and X2. This was about Group A. Now coming to Group B. Group B receive intervention 1 only. Group B receives intervention 1 only, that is X1. Coming to Group C. Group C receives intervention 2 only. Group C intervention receives X2, that is only the relaxation, but no distraction. Now coming to Group D. Group D receives no intervention. So group A receives both, that means relaxation and distraction both. Group B only distraction, group C only relaxation, and group D there is no intervention. So the cell A receives both, cell B only one, that is distraction, cell C only the relaxation, and cell D there is no intervention. So subjects in all the groups are given post-test. So cell A subjects will allow the researcher to examine the interaction between both the independent variables, that is distraction and also the relaxation, both. Subjects are divided into subgroups or blocks. Random assignment of the subjects within each block. Most useful in the heterogeneous groups. There are 2 independent variables or the factors. Only one independent variable can be manipulated and the other cannot be manipulated, and it is known as blocking variable. So subjects are divided into homogeneous groups, block A for the males and block B for the females. Randomized block design. Gender, male A, female block B. Treatment given is placebo, that is the control group, 250, vaccine experimental group 250. So this is the randomized block design. Subjects within each blocks are randomly assigned to experimental group and the control groups. Subjects in each block are given pre-test. Both of them are given pre-test. Block A and Block B, experimental group subjects have experimental treatment. They give experimental treatment. Control subjects do not receive any experimental treatment. Subjects in all the groups are given post-test. So 500 males, that means 250 in the placebo category and 250 in the vaccine category. Same thing is females are available for this study, and two blocks which is based on the gender. Subjects are given random assignment. So 250 in the each cell, 500 will get placebo treatment and 500 will get the vaccine. So they are the most scientific in nature. So this is the randomized block design. Advantages of the experimental designs. They are the most scientific in nature experimental designs. They are most powerful designs to establish the causal relationship between independent and dependent variables. Because of the controlled environment, they give a good observation. Conditions not found in a natural setting, they can be created in an experimental setting. It takes very less time to create conditions in an experimental approach, and problems of real life, day-to-day life situations, they are not present, and they can concentrate on the and conduct the study in a careful manner in an experimental studies. They are controlled studies, experimental designs. Disadvantages. There are some disadvantages related to the experimental designs because they cannot be replicated due to the ethical issues, and it is not possible to conduct experiments on human beings because some human variables, neither they have valid measurable criteria nor there are instruments to measure, and it is not possible to impose the control over extraneous variables in many conditions, and manipulations cannot be done in human studies because of the ethical reasons. Pre-test can affect the response of the post-test, and it is very difficult to get cooperation from the participants. Sample size is small, so the meaningful results for a larger population cannot be established. So this was about the experimental designs, all the 6 types of experimental designs. So it should be decided well in advance that which research design would be most appropriate for your particular research project. Thank you.